Trying to codify my thoughts on.
We are ready.
Are we ready, people?
Should be averaged over 5.
Looks like it.
No, I got the same email.
Huh?
Water balance.
Same email.
Oh, okay. So
I
there's like
never
a,
responded.
like a true
Average.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe you pay kind of.
Screw up is a great word. That's what everybody understands.
We are live.
At the end of the program, you pay.
Yeah, we're live, everybody.
You do.
Okay, let's get this meeting going. A couple minutes after 9. Gotta do our talking first, you know how it is. So anyway, we'll call this meeting to the order. And first, number 1, is there any additions to the agenda?
Chairman, there is one addition to the agenda. It is a support letter for AB 2878, which is related to proper use of forest biomass waste. The request for the support came to us after the posting of the agenda and is due no later than the 18th, and you do not have another meeting between now and the 18th.
I move,
No,
I move that we take up this item, finding that it arose after the posting of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, any public comment? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. Madam Lawyer, would you read a closed session, please?
Happy to. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. There are 4 items for your closed session. 1 is conference with your labor negotiators. Designated representatives are Alba Gomez, Ms. May, and Ms. Carter. The employee organization are all units, and that's under Government Code 54957.6. There are 2 existing litigations under Government Code 54956.9, subsection D1. The names of those cases are BNSF Railway Company versus Alameda County et al. The case number is 19CV07230HSG. The other case is Cardoza et al. Versus the County of Madera Groundwater Sustainability Agency, and that Madera County Superior case number is MCV06218. The last item is under Government Code Section 54957. That's in public employee appointment employment discussion related to the Director of Community and Economic Development position. Thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment on those items? Seeing none, we'll go into closed session then.
You don't have to do it right now. They're not. There's no rush. Because it's going to get dirty.
Ready? Okay, welcome to a great board meeting today on the 12th of I almost said November. Why did I bring that up?
12th of never.
12th of never,
It's
yeah.
April, isn't it? Well, it's somewhere around there. Anyway, we got some reportable action out of the closed session. Madam Lawyer?
That's correct, Chairman. Thank you. On a motion by Supervisor Gonzalez, second by Supervisor Frazier, with a 5-0 in favor, the board adopted 2 items. One of them is a memorandum of understanding for the implementation of a final judgment in the BNSF Railway Company versus Alameda County case that's also listed on the agenda, and also for a stipulation for entry of judgment and proposed final judgment as to Alameda, Contra Costa, Fresno, Kern, Madera, Merced, Orange, Plumas, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tulare counties. Again, both those items were approved by the board on a 5-0 in favor vote. Thank you.
Any public comment? None. Okay, and open and close. Whoop.
I think that this was just on the, that closed session item.
Yeah, I'll have the public comment regular in a minute. This is the open and close memory of. Anybody got any?
I have one. Just saw, for those of you that attended Madera High School, you probably had a history teacher, John Pash, passed away. Very important. I still credit him with teaching me how to think and learn. He would challenge kind of cognitive abilities in people. I ended up majoring in sociology. I didn't even know what it was until senior year when I took it from him. Remember he said, after you're done with school, you can call me John. I called him at one time and I was like, that's the weirdest thing. Sorry, Mr. Pash, I'll always call you Mr. Pash. But he was just a wonderful person. And his son, Chris, and daughter, Erin, just want to give my condolences to them. And thank you, Mr. Pash, for everything you did for me and everyone else you taught.
Thank you. I got one. Anybody else got any? He wasn't from Madera County, but Patrick Emmert from Fresno County lived in Prather. I've known him for 40 years. He was a forester for all the logging companies over there for many years. And he also was an announcer for the Norfolk Loggers Jamboree for probably the last 25 years. And he got cancer and he passed away at only age 73. So for his family and kids, I just like to open and close in his honor because he was really a good guy. That's all I can tell you. No others? Okay. Well, the invocation is by Pastor Xavier Sanchez from the Christina Bethesda Church. And you ready? And let's see. How would you like to do the flag salute? I'm looking at you. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. God bless you. I'm going to pray in Spanish, okay? Bendito Dios y Padre que estás en gloria. En el nombre maravilloso de Jesucristo, bendito Dios, venimos ante tu presencia, pidiéndote misericordia, Señor amado, y sabiduría, bendito Dios, por los supervisores, por todos los que están reunidos en esta mañana, Señor amado, en este lugar, que seas tú guiándonos, Señor amado, bendito Dios, que todo se haga en armonía, Señor amado, guiados por ti, por tu Espíritu Santo. Bendice este lugar, Señor, con tu presencia, que todo, Señor amado, se haga, Señor amado, bendito Dios, lo que es la justicia, Señor, la paz, Señor amado. Bendice, Señor amado, los supervisores, Departamento de Policía, Departamento de Bomberos, Señor amado, y a todos, Señor amado, que en este momento están trabajando, bendito Dios, y ellos, Señor amado, que están trabajando para el pueblo, Señor, bendícelos en el nombre poderoso de Cristo Jesús. Amén.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Xavier, too. Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to do number 4.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning. I'm Anna Wattenbarger, and I'm here this morning representing Master Gardeners. First, I want to thank you all for your long-term support of the UC Cooperative Extension programs, but especially the Master Gardener program, since that's the one I've been involved with for about 20 years now. As you might well imagine, during COVID, most of the Master Gardener programs came to a screeching halt. with the exception of the work on our demonstration garden, because that's outdoors and, you know, at least 6 feet spaced away. So that turned out to be a really good thing because our garden is now looking fantastic. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about our demonstration garden because have any of you been there? That's what I thought. It's a very well-kept secret and it's a hidden gem. We have a memorandum of understanding at the community college, the Madera Community College on Avenue 12. We have a 2-acre parcel on the Lot C, which is in the back, and that's kind of why it's a hidden treasure. It's on the west end of Lot C, and we've been working on this for about 14 years, and we're making really good progress. I'm delighted with how it's looking right now. We have a very large iris section that has over 100 named varieties of iris that are just now bursting into bloom. It's going to be gorgeous by the end of this week. A very large rose garden, a children's section with a maze. We've got a big vegetable garden. There's a section with fruit trees, with ornamental trees, a brand new kitchen garden, a water-wise section, and more. Anyway, lots of different sections, and the idea is to give people what they might want to do in their own yard. So we're just now beginning to gear back up into our public programs, and in the past, we have offered lots of workshops for the public, things such as how to prune your roses, how to select and care for your shrubs and trees, what vegetables to plant now, how to compost, just a whole variety of things. So we're finally getting back into that, and that's kind of exciting for all of us. So our major fundraiser is our garden tour, and I'd like to invite all of you to come to the garden tour. It's on April 30th. We have 2 gardens in the Madera Ranchos area, then of course our garden, and 2 here in Madera. And at the Three Sisters Garden, which is the name of our demonstration garden, we also have a garden shop where there'll be lots of plants for sale and also other garden-related items. So again, I want to thank you for supporting the Master Gardener program and come out and see what we're doing.
Sounds good.
What time on the 30th?
9 to 1.
Thank you.
Fernwood?
If I put it on Facebook? Okay, but can I put it on too? Or? Okay. I want to make sure before I do it. Any other public comment? I just got one. I mean, it could be under supervisor report too, but the Raymond Parade is this Saturday at noon, straight up noon. Get there before that because they close the road down. But our grand marshals, I thought was real cool, is Neil Cuthbert and Linda Cuthbert, who was both retired from the sheriff's department and the what do you call the dispatcher. Yeah, and they got a little farm up there in Raymond, and they were picked as the grand marshals. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, I can read it. And any other public comment? Seeing none. Just move on down to the consent calendar. Has anybody got any things when they want to pull out the consent calendar?
I just want to mention one item, B2. Item E, I want to thank
D?
E as in Eckert. E.
Oh, E.
Yeah. I want to thank General Services for bringing this forward. I think I mentioned to him just a couple of weeks ago to keep on top of surplus property because that's an important component of getting rid of property we don't need as a county. So thank you for doing that.
All right, no problem. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 1?
And then appreciate item N. You know, anything we can do to get resources to bring water into this county are absolutely imperative. That should be one of our major focuses because economically, every
Everything we do.
piece of water we bring into this county, every drop that we bring into this county is economic development, just like when we invest in advertising for our tourism resources. It's the same kind of component.
Economic.
We are
benefit.
developing our economics, and we've never had to do that before for farming, but it's so important. I tell you, when you turn on the spigot and no water comes out, your heart drops. Your heart drops. And I know this. I've had it happen to me twice since I've lived where I live now. I'm responsible for my own water. And when you don't have water for a week,
Just remember the water's coming from up there.
exactly. It's all part of a system.
Right.
And so this is an investment, and that's the way we've got to look at it.
And we had 4100ths in Awanee yesterday, rain, and it made it almost 19 inches, 18.94 inches I got there now. So it's a long ways from the 30 plus we usually
Get us some more, Tom. Get us some more.
Any other public comment on the consent calendar?
Letty.
I was,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was going to move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier,
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes, again.
I'm sorry.
She gets
You
two
can't
votes
vote
and I don't
twice,
get any.
Karen. Don't vote
Chairman
twice.
Wheeler.
I mean, we try to vote twice once in a while. You know, Debbie Martinez catches it.
Chairman Wheeler.
Yes.
Vote passes
I
5-0.
vote yes.
Oh.
Okay.
That's okay.
Item 6.
6A, update on COVID-19 and current vaccination administration status for Madera County residents.
Good morning, Mr. Dr. Paul. Just so you know, I got my second booster shot last Friday.
Perfect.
And I didn't get sick. I got a little tired Sunday and had something else, but I won't tell you what it was.
Thank you.
That's great
Thank
to hear. So yeah, Chairman of the Board, members of the Board, thanks for the chance to update you. This is Simon Paul, Health Officer from Madera County, and right now things actually look very good. Our case rate's one of the lowest in the state, is down to 1.7 with 1.1% positivity, and that's down from 350. So instead of getting 700 cases over a day or two, now we get 3 or 4. So that's a pretty impressive change, and the hospitals have emptied out as well. So that is great. BA2, which is the slightly more infectious variant, has been taking over in California. It's now estimated to be over about 70 or 80% of cases. However, I think because of the timing when it arrived, it might have led to a slight increase in cases that we've seen in the coastal areas. It hasn't here. Now are effective. How many cases are being caused by each case still remains well below 1. And where cases have bumped up, it hasn't led to serious illness. So my sense is things are good and they're staying good for the short-term foreseeable future. So that is great. They only changed the guidance. They changed the quarantine guidance. It used to say if you were vaccinated, you did not have to quarantine at home, and now it says nobody has to quarantine at home, which is more consistent because people who had been vaccinated could actually catch COVID and become infectious. And it's based on basically what we realized is by the time somebody has symptoms, get tested, and you notify a contact, at that point they either have it or they don't, and there's no point staying home. So the guidance now says if you're notified that you're exposed, you should basically test and find out if you have COVID or not. And wear a mask after having been exposed. The biggest effect on this will be in schools where many kids can't be vaccinated because of their age. They had been able to stay in class, but now they would also not miss out on sports and extracurricular activities. Mentioned to the schools, they're like, that's great, but we don't have any cases. So we'll see. It may play out if cases do bump up a bit down the road. As far as other things, there's sort of a push now. Cases are low to try and start transitioning things back to healthcare for vaccination. And also for cares, medications and treatments are more widely available if cases were to go up. That's partly because vaccination is becoming complicated. There's many more categories and options for immunosuppressed, second boosters, things like that. And it needs to be more connected to people's primary care providers. Also because we've seen surprisingly rather low vaccination rates in Medi-Cal populations. The sense is that those groups may not have been doing as much vaccinating depending on pharmacies and health departments. So we're trying to sort of push that back. With our provider outreach staff, we've been working closely with pediatric practices, visiting them in person, identifying problems they have if they need any help becoming a vaccinating site. Instead of just telling them what they should do, we're actually using, since our vaccination clinics are slow, offering our staff, like if you want somebody to get it set up in your office for the next few weeks, they can figure out the ordering and all the paperwork and all of that, get the process in place so that they can continue down the road. And those are pretty much the major updates that I have. Like I said, right now cases look good, and it looks like it'll stay that way for the short-term foreseeable future, which is what we're hoping will last. Questions on any of that?
Yes, Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, as far as the schools, I just want to thank you for having that meeting with Golden Valley. All the front office staff is much happier about it's much more streamlined and just sitting in the room and talking and figuring that out. I just really appreciate you taking that time and getting that guidance to them so they can keep the kids at school and not out 14 days with a seasonal allergy runny nose. So I just really, really appreciate that. And I've known how important that was to you too, is keeping the kids safe and at school. And you've done a great job. I just appreciate that.
Thanks. And I think like I said, the changes to the school guidance now will make it much more what schools are familiar with. If someone's sick, they should get tested and stay home. And if they're not, then kind of move on. So I think it'll be much easier guidance because it fits with what we've done for influenza. Past fairly close.
Yeah, it just seemed like the policies were being built like just on top of each other, and it was like a Frankenstein of a policy, right? It was like, oh, this was good for 3 months ago, but now we've relaxed this part of it, and so just kind of doing that reset and having your guidance on that was very helpful because yeah, it was, and it made my wife very happy too because she was not happy.
Also, Dr. Paul, I went to my doctor last week, and I have some procedures I got to go through, and I asked him if I should go ahead and get that 4th shot, the second booster. He looked at me like I was stupid or something. He says, absolutely. He says, I want you to do it before you start. And he said, all these, these new variants is coming out. This will help protect me from that. So I felt pretty good when I went out there because the very next day I went and got a shot.
That's perfect.
So I thought that was
that's
important.
good to hear. And it's good to hear that providers are emphasizing it as well. Because it really does, it depends on people's situations, their health issues, things that they have going on. And we want to make sure that docs in the community are aware of all those indicators.
Perfect. Any questions for Dr. Paul? None? Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
Chairman, since we haven't reached the 10:30 hour yet, would you like to move to the items under pending legislation so we can complete
Yeah,
those?
let's get that done, please.
9A, consideration of approval to ratify the attached letter of support of taking all necessary actions to allow and assist with the expanded production of oil leases within the state of California to help alleviate record energy prices and to provide domestic energy security.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This letter was signed by yourself last week, as well as over the signatures of the chairmans of Tulare, Merced, and Fresno, forwarded to Governor Newsom to encourage him to expand safe exploration of fossil fuels here in California, since we are currently experiencing continued record high fuel prices, and it's before you for ratification today.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, any public comment on this? Being none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the addition to the agenda, Bill 2878, biomass.
Yes, Chairman, this letter is requesting the board to consider a letter of support to member Aguiar Curry's bill, which is a bill promoting smart use of forest biomass waste utilization. There's a date coming up that's going to sunset, and the bill requested that sunset be moved out until 2030.
Questions? Any public comment on that? Need a motion?
To approve.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who motioned?
I did, and Richard's second.
Supervisor Frazier,
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler.
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
We got about 5 minutes before the 10:30 deal. Why don't we go ahead and do the supervisors' reports? David?
I attended a number of meetings over the week, but none that are required to be reportable, so on all this stuff. Good.
Letty?
Let me check.
Okay. Rob?
I'll be pinch hitting for Rudy Mendoza tomorrow at the TCAG town hall, I guess it is. The California Transportation Commission is having their monthly meeting in Tulare tomorrow in the morning, and then Ted Smalley of TCAG has organized a town hall to educate the members of the CTC about transportation issues in the valley. And Rudy just had triple bypass surgery yesterday, and he's on the TCAG board. Anyway, he's doing well. And so he asked me to help out and jump in and talk a little bit about 99. So I thought I might know a few things about that.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Okay,
There you
Letty?
go.
So we had our grand opening of the District 4 field office, and I think
Hey,
the
whoopee,
supervisors
whoopee.
and their staff are attending. Great turnout. You'll be seeing an MOU to utilize that office, so thank you for that. And I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter.
Thank you. I'll wait till Brett gets back, but on myself, I had a town hall last Thursday evening from 6 to 8:30. It went a little longer. We had 82 people join in on our Zoom meeting, and it really good. It was mainly on hardening your homes. We had CAL FIRE, we had Yosemite Sequoia RCND, the Eastern Madera County Community District Service that we're trying to get done. We had Peter Mesa from the California Department of Insurance there. We had the Sierra National Forest Ranger, Jen Christie there. Sean Fairbanks from Madera County Fire. We had John Cottington from the Corsico Resource Conservation District. NRCS had Dennis Dudley, and Self-Help, Susan Long was there, and Southern Sierra Prescribed Burn Association, Mark Garrett was. They're based in Mariposa, but man, they got a lot of things going. Then we had a community question and answer deal, but we had 82 people show up that day. Really good. Doing reports from the.
I just wanted to thank Karen and her staff for a wonderful meeting on a long meeting last Wednesday for the San Joaquin River Conservancy here in our chambers. First time in Madera County, but
Whoopee.
it was a long one.
A lot of people.
Yeah,
Good.
Not 82, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was-
79. That's
yeah,
just
yeah,
good.
it was well attended, but
Okay.
appreciate it. Everyone really enjoyed our facilities.
Great. Jay.
The only thing out of the ordinary, Supervisor Frazier just mentioned, I did attend that meeting for about 2 hours and then had to go to another Zoom meeting. But it was nice to be able to get informed about what the Conservancy and what the Parkway is doing while being right here in our own building.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And everyone liked not having
Supervisor
to pay
Frazier did remind Fresno County that there are more open spaces being utilized in Madera County than in Fresno County currently.
Yeah, it was fun to see that they had it was 85 acres and we had 427. So it was,
Wow.
oh, also I have my coffee and conversation on April 27th.
Sorry. Cut you off.
No, no problem.
Regina.
No report, Chair. Thank you.
Karen?
Nothing to
Okay.
report, thank you.
Well, it's 10:30. Just start right now. Public hearings.
7A, hearing to consider the request of Jones Snyder and Associates to amend Section 18.08 3-325 of Ordinance 525. The applicant's proposal is a rezone of 4 parcels to change the zone district from CRM to RRS-2. Single-family 2-acre district, single-family 2 acres. District for assurance of the certificate of compliance and negative declaration, subject to the conditions as articulated in the staff report in this matter. APN 065-220-061-062-063 were originally split by deed, creating a violation per the Subdivision Map Act. APN 065-220-044 is included in the rezone for expedition for the future lot line adjustment. The certificate of compliance and rezone will validate the parcels used in development and establish compliance with the Subdivision Map Act.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jamie Bax, Deputy Community and Economic Development Director with the Planning Division. As Madam Clerk mentioned, this is a rezone, CZ 2021-004, rezoning from a commercial zone district to a residential zone district. Staff did prepare a negative declaration as this item was a project under CEQA. There were no concerns as a result of that initial study, and therefore a negative declaration was prepared as opposed to a mitigated negative declaration. And the project is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Road 222 and Pettit Road in Bass Lake area. So yes, a notice of violation was filed in the county due to the illegal parcel split. We don't often see the parcel splits until it's brought to our attention when the property owner either wants to sell their property or divide their property or do a lot line adjustment. So they proposed a lot line adjustment, and as we were reviewing the deeds and the legality of the parcel, it came to our attention that the properties were split. Sorry?
You said, whoops.
Yeah. They were split by deed as opposed to going through the process of a parcel map is the usual process. So this rezone will validate that. It will bring the zone district into consistency. We will then be able to issue what's called a certificate of compliance, and that certificate recognizes the parcels as being legal parcels. So this shows the general plan of the area, which is rural residential. You do have some very low density residential to the north and some community commercial on the other side of Road 222 on the west side there. The zone district is currently CRM. You do have some residential directly adjacent to the RMS zone district, so it'll be consistent with that area and again consistent with the general plan. We did have a planning commission hearing, and the planning commission did recommend by a 5-0 vote to approve the rezone 2021-002 subject to conditions and the negative declaration 2021-23. And I'm available for any questions.
So this said illegally, but it more incorrectly split at the time.
Correct.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board? Public comment on this? Public hearing, so we got to open it up to the public. Nobody kind of jump up here and say anything, so close the public hearing and bring it back to anybody online. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. 7B. Thank you, Jamie.
Welcome.
7B, hearing to consider an application from Case Petroleum for a letter of public convenience and necessity. The application of Case Petroleum for a premise license to allow the sale of beer and wine at the existing service station. The property is owned by Case Nacaud and is located on the west side of Road 4, approximately 800 feet south of the intersection of State Highway 152 in Chowchilla, parcel number APN 020-090-014, and is zoned commercial, rural, and general.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Jamie Bax with the Planning Division. I apologize. It looks like I am having a little bit of a technical difficulty getting my, oh, there we go. Thank you. So again, this is a letter of convenience and necessity. Generally, the applicant does approach ABC initially. ABC does determine whether or not there's an overconcentration in the area. In this case, they did. So the existing use of the property is a gas station and a convenience store. I'm just going to go through it if it's okay, because my presentation is a little bit stalled. But it is an existing gas station. There is a market next door. My understanding is that the property owner would like to utilize the gas station for the sales. It is type 20, so that means off sales. They cannot consume the beverages there on site. They have to purchase them and take them away. And with that, staff is recommending approval of this letter of convenience and necessity to be sent to the state.
And this is because they do these based on census tracts. Our
Correct.
census tracts are so large.
Right. This
It's not
census
like in the they're really that ABC has it for if you're in town where they're just right next to each other. This is just so large and spread out. It doesn't.
That's
create
correct.
that, yeah.
It's basically a large southern portion of the property along the San Joaquin River, both east and west of 99. The census tract spans, so it's a large area.
And there's not very, looking at the map of the Census Tract 11, there's none even around it where they're getting this approved, so they're all off, way off, so.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a typical one-size-fits-all type of a law.
Situation,
It
right?
just doesn't apply to Madera County. It's just like their road requirements for travel, you know, build them for big cities, not
Right.
country.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll open it up to the public. Any comments from the public on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 8A.
8A, presentation and direction by staff to notice rates to affected parcels.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stephanie Agneson, your Director of Water and Natural Resources. I'm joined with Mike Linden, Deputy County Counsel, and on WebEx, Dan Cox from KNN, the county's municipal advisor, from Raftellus, Kevin Kostick, Nancy Fan, and Jim Armstrong, and from David's Engineering, John Davids. Could we project the presentation, please? Thank you. As you know, what we've done is develop 3 separate groundwater sustainability plans, as the county GSA is responsible for areas, so-called white areas, in 3 different subbasins. The plans were developed in 2018 and 2019, adopted by your board in December of 2019, and then submitted to the State Department of Water Resources in January of 2020. Within the GSPs, we have programs that include robust recharge, participation in sites reservoir, domestic well mitigation, a portion of which, based on our contribution to overdraft, land repurposing, or what we're calling the sustainable agricultural land conservation. The GSPs are all in states of pending approval from DWR. The plan in the Delta, Mendota, and Chowchilla, those plans are under revision right now. The joint GSP in Madera has not received a letter yet, but we anticipate a similar letter. We've had extensive public outreach to develop an allocation, as well as key project details in order to develop costs. We developed the farm unit concept to allow people to manage water as a larger economic unit. And we have been aggressive about water supply augmentation before demand reduction. The rate study objectives were to develop fees for service, identify all of the capital and operations costs, as well as costs for management actions, look at different funding options and different scenarios, and then develop a long-term financial plan for self-sufficiency for the county GSAs. And probably worth noting, the county GSA is the only one that does not have an existing rate structure. Of the 14 GSAs in the Madera County, we're responsible for 3 of them, but the other 11 have a way of recovering costs already and of paying for projects. We've talked through designing rates to recover those costs, and there's a financial plan that is in the rate study. Oops. Thank you. And then we've documented the study and the procedural requirements as well. So graphically, here's what this looks like, and we began this process about 18 months ago. We talked through a rate setting framework with pricing and policy objectives. We developed a financial plan that evaluated our capital needs and looked at financing options for recharge projects. We did some cash flow analysis and looked at different scenarios. We've spent a lot of time right here in step 3, where we looked at the cost of service and options for rate design. And then step 4, where we're shifting to, is the publication of the report itself, and then public noticing and a public hearing. So we are somewhere between steps 3 and step 4. What we've heard from the board: in the last meeting on March 29th, the board gave direction to finalize the rates using a flat rate for 5 years. We've called that a leveled rate or an averaged rate as well. That means it's the same rate per enrolled acre in year 1 as in year 5. This rate structure assumes that unused water is carried over, and your resolution from last August gave rules for carrying over that water, but anything that is unused in your allocation can be carried into the next year. That would essentially,
allocation, you mean sustainable yield and ETW, correct?
the allocation is a number from the previous resolution from June, which includes both sustainable yield and transition water. Right. And it's measured as evapotranspiration of applied water, or ETAW.
Can I ask one quick question on that, or I'll actually go. I'll let you finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm about halfway through. In terms of what we're requesting today, April 12th, we're requesting rate authorization. We have a final rate proposal, which I'll show you shortly. It's documented in a draft rate study. We're asking the board to accept the draft rate study and allow us to finalize it and begin noticing of affected parcels pursuant to Prop 218. That would result in June 21st, a public hearing for rate adoption, where we would receive and count the protest votes. This would not be done by our office. This is done by the clerk of the board's office as your clerk. Absent a majority protest, the board may adopt the rates. So the key is that you're hearing from the public before you're adopting the rates. Let's talk a bit about project development. Even though you can potentially authorize the rates today, that doesn't commit the board to implementation details. Separately, the board will need to approve rules or participation for land repurposing, domestic well mitigation, sites participation, and recharge, including an agreement with landowners to share costs and benefits. So authorization of the rate proposal right now allows project development to move ahead. We have developed the projects as far as we can without a rate.
That's important.
We've done extensive workshops and outreach. The rectangles at the top are workshops on individual projects, whether it's recharge, sites, domestic well mitigation, or SALC, the land repurposing. And the workshops at the bottom are times we've come to the board to talk through this, including three updates in March alone. So here are the rate schedules. The one your board moved ahead last on March 29th is the one at the bottom. In the Madera Subbasin, this is a 5-year averaged rate of $246. The rate is the same each year for 5 years. In Chowchilla, $203, and in Delta Mendota, $138. Delta Mendota is the subbasin that only has one project, which is land repurposing. Last time you asked to see a draft of the notice. So this is our standard format. Key details: to protest, you notify the GSA in writing by June 20th, or you show up in person on June 21st. In your protest, you need to include your name as the landowner, a signature, and your assessor's parcel number. Those are things that are checked when you turn in your vote. And we have tried to honor the wishes of the board in terms of discussing penalties and replacement water at the same time, so that growers can build a fuller understanding of potential water costs. So I'm sharing this slide with you here as a draft for what penalties and replacement water might cost for exceeding the allocation. This would have to come back to your board a number of times separately, but let me walk you through this. So the allocation year is a calendar year as opposed to a fiscal year. The charge for exceeding an allocation would not be felt until you receive a property tax bill the next year, because we need that full year to elapse to calculate any exceedance. So the replacement water, we've calculated at around $600 to $650 per acre foot over. We're showing $600 here. The replacement water charge would need to come to the board in a separate 218 action, but it would need to be a Prop 218 action, meaning there's public notice, there's 45 days, there's the opportunity to protest, and then there's a public hearing. The next column over is a potential penalty. This is described in Sigma itself. This could be adopted by your board as an ordinance, also with a public hearing. So in this draft, we're showing a 0 penalty in 2022, and then increase over time from $0 to $400, and then it could go to $500 the next year. Couple caveats: this is a draft. Your board has some flexibility here, both in terms of whether you adopt a penalty as an ordinance or in the 218 for replacement water. But I think it's important to put this out there showing you an option, and I can come back separately and apart from this rate study to discuss this further. In terms of rate implementation, the resolution for rate adoption will include annual financial updates to the board with your ability to adjust the rate downward. And that may happen if projects do not progress according to the timeline. If we have other revenues, I would include grants and potentially the penalty. Are they larger than we're estimating? And if the project or programmatic details cause some sort of change in costs. So with a yearly check-in, your board could review all of that. And if financially prudent, you may elect to implement rates lower than those adopted without having to re-notice and re-adopt.
I'd also consider an economic factor if we saw that a decline in commodities to the point where it was going to be detrimental to the entire region.
Your board seems like it would have discretion to opt in for a lower rate. This would be the highest rate that's in the rate study that could be charged. The schedule is showing right now. You'll recall we showed you, I think, fixed rates back in December. Allocations are in effect now in 2022. We've done a series of updates, February through March. Today is the final authorization presentation. And then we can begin public notice with your approval on final authorization around May 1st. The protest period is from public notice to the hearing itself, which we have calendared at June 21st. People would see the rate, so we're not talking about penalties or replacement water, but the rate itself, July 1st, which would come on a November tax bill. The staff recommendation is to accept the rate draft study report. It is in your packet. If you accept it, we can move ahead with public noticing of the affected parcels and set the hearing date for June 21st, as well as direct staff to return within 30 days for direction regarding penalties and replacement water. We've done a number of public workshops already. We have, other than the public notice, we have drafted an outreach flyer that describes all of the programs, which we will send out during the notice period. And we would like to continue the small workshops that we've already been holding with various constituencies, as well as have one larger workshop. So this concludes my presentation. I would be glad to take your questions.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes. One of the things that I'd like to see in the statement that goes out for the 218 would be, first of all, a statement that this is a state requirement for us to implement projects, and that this money will only be used for projects. That it will not be supplementing the general fund or whatever. However, that can be worded to indicate that this is specific money for a specific purpose that cannot be hijacked for any other reason. And I realize that the projects are in development, and the common question I'm hearing is, you know, when I buy something, I like to kick the tires. I like to look the horse in the mouth. And I get that. I feel the same way. It's like you're buying something that's out here in the future and you don't know what you're buying. So, but I think that we need to at least drill down on the idea of how much water we can expect overall to, and that's the bottom line for these projects, is how much water are we going to potentially bring into the circumstance through this money and the project. So if we had a, you know, kind of like a look into the future, and that would be a little bit of a kick of the tire for everybody. And I think they might feel a little bit better about that. I think it's going to be important that what they're buying, they know what they're getting, you know, that this is going to help save us. And I believe, I really, truly believe, having been out there and looked at a number of farms and the circumstances and understanding groundwater recharge as I do, I believe we can recharge our way out of this situation. That this is our dam. This is our future. This is our way of getting storage in the ground. Just like, again, looking at Triangle T, 1 year, 60,000 acre feet in the ground on 600 acres that was just bermed up. I mean, we can do this if we work together. And potentially, I see from farm to farm. I was on Costa View a week and a half ago, and they have a series of canals built around their farm. They move water on 6,000 acres. And their farm runs from Road 16 clear to Road 9. And they've got recharge basins along the way. They fill up those basins, and they flood certain properties that when the water comes, the 215 water. I envision from that, the ability, knowing farmers as I do, I know them, they can move dirt like nobody else can. And they can build a system of canals from one property to the next, from the next door neighbor's farm to their farm, and move this water in a checkerboard of great proportions of recharge over the entire west side.
And that's what we're going to do.
That's what we want to do. But I don't think we have to wait for this project money to do that. I think these farmers have the ability and the initiative to do that. Now and then it's our job to get that water out of the bypass, out of the Fresno River, out of the places that we can get it through riparian rights and what have you, and get as much of that water as we can into the system that we've created and fill it up and let it just perk down. And I've seen it go down quick. We'll recharge this region because this is sandy loam. And that water it will not sit on top. It'll go where you perforate that lower crust, and it gets in the ground quick. I have a couple of things I just want to mention real quick in this the presentation. I really appreciate the flexibility that you've built into the penalty replacement water program. However, I see one thing that could be tweaked here, and that would be that this could be averaged out over the 5-year program. So what I'm saying, like creative financing, okay? Same thing. You need to borrow $100,000, so you do it from over here and over here and over here, and in the end, you still get the $100,000. So what we need is a zero water balance, a 1-to-1 balance, a zero water take, a net zero. Does it matter in terms of when that happens in this project cycle of 5 years? If it doesn't happen until the 5th year, it doesn't matter. So it's like a true up, If they here's the example I wrote down. Let me read this out. So the fees and replacement water, the fees, the replacement water fee, and then the penalties should be averaged out over the use of the 5-year of the program. Year one, say that a farmer uses 100 acre feet over his allotted amount. Year two, he uses 100 acre feet over his allotted amount. That's a plus 200 acre feet that he has spent that he wasn't allowed to have. So there are fees and penalties building up on that 200 acre feet. But let's say that
So
year
in the 5th
3,
year, we get to put a tax lien on it, we sell it.
but let's say year 3 and 4, he uses minus 200 acre feet, less than his allotment. That balances out to 0 in year 4. And if he stays that way in year 5, he shouldn't have to pay fees and penalties on that water because the result is the same. And that's what we're looking for is results. So I know it's complicated to track something like that,
Okay.
but I think it's important for the survival of the ranches and the farms and the dairies that we have in our area, and that's our economics, folks. I think it's important that we give that flexibility. So that's one thing, and I'm really going to stick to my guns on that one. That flexibility is the key. It is the key to surviving this. So the true up, and I borrowed that from my buddy here, Brett Fraser. He said, that sounds like a true up to me. He's the only one I talked with about that, by the way. So you don't think I violated the Brown Act, but he came up with that word, true up, and I like it. I like it a lot. Then secondly, concerning carryover, let's see, the carryover, in my opinion, is the same. It's a bank account. It should be extended from year to year to year to year. And in addition to that, let's say you're not using your transition water, you're not using your sustainable yield fully for a few years. But in addition to that, you've also recharged measurably and verifiably more water. That goes into your bank account as well. And suddenly you have, let's say you have 5 years now of really good water that you can use to grow a crop that, over that 5-year period. And the net result is still a net zero out of the ground. So I think carryover is another area of flexibility we need to give to our farming operations so they can survive. And this makes full sense to me. It's math and it doesn't lie, and it's verifiable and doable. So those things I think are critical. Thank you.
Supervisor Frazier.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, when I saw the what was just going to go out, it does just show just the rates. It looks like, it doesn't say how much in transitional and sustainable yield water they get in that year. Did I read that correctly?
That is correct.
Yeah. So when you're just looking at just what it's going to cost and not, what you get or the where the projects go, kind of to Supervisor Rogers, even having the graph that we show of the glide path with project water coming in and the gradual decline versus without that, it's going to be a much steeper decline because the only way that we'd be able to balance is through demand reduction. So showing those two graphs as to how it's actually going to impact, because at the end of the day, it has to have demand reduction. We have to get into balance, whether there's this fee or not. But the difference will be how much water you'll have without the fee versus how much water you'll have, the farmer will have access to with the fee. And then also, I know that, and I appreciate for transparency's sake, having these draft penalties and replacement water charge. But the questions I always get is that we're having that as part of it, or that it's just hanging out there and that we're going to charge this, but then also this. So, because under Sigma, we can, through ordinance, levy a penalty. Could we also do this replacement water charges? We can't, right? So that would have to be
a separate Prop 218.
So that would be a separate Prop 218. So there's another opportunity for the landowners to be able to vote on whether or not the replacement water charge, this $600. I just think it's important that everybody knows that we're not doing the 246 plus this 600. The 600 would have to come back again.
That's right. The replacement water is a separate 218 proceeding.
Yeah, I just think that's very important for people to understand when voting on this, because I think right now the overall thought is that it's both under this Prop 218, and it's just not. I don't know how we make that apparent. I mean,
that's a good point. And we have struggled with this all along because people want to look at all the financial costs that are down the road, right?
Mhm.
So you have these discussions, but what you're really talking about are a number of separate proceedings and board actions.
And so, like, say, on the replacement water, what is that $600 by actual water?
That is what it would cost for us to pay someone to forego pumping. It's similar to the land repurposing, but this is really for any acre.
And if we can't find anybody to forego pumping, what would that pay for?
I think we could combine that potentially with some of the penalty money and increase the rate, but that's what the economic analysis has shown, is that rate of 600 to 650 is about what it would cost to find someone to forego pumping.
Okay, so I guess what I want to see is just some way to show that this is not part of it. I don't know how we do it.
Well, it won't be part because it won't be an ordinance.
I
It needs to be
no,
spelled out.
I understand that. And Tom, you understand also if someone has it in their head that it's part of it,
Yeah.
To sign.
it's part of it, right? Yeah. And so we have to show that these are they're not linked. It's not part of it. It's not being put forward right now. I don't know if there's a disclaimer. I don't know legally if you can have something that's not in a 218 to be in the 218 notice.
That seems like that would convince people it was in the 218.
I know that's the problem.
But so we do have a whole half page that is blank there where we were going to try to format this and make it more attractive. Let me work with county council on some really clear language about what's included. There is a section, what services do the rates fund and why are they needed? So we do cover that, but I know sometimes there's too many words.
So yeah, that's why I like the idea of the graph with 218 with the projects.
Mhm.
This is how much water will be available per acre, and then without it, it's going to be much less because they'll have to be on a much steeper decline.
We can definitely work on some sort of graphic for this. And we also have a separate brochure that's being mailed out that describes all of these projects.
Okay, same day, or
It's going out after. No.
same day?
Okay.
Because I mean, it should come out when you have this and then the information so that they're able to digest it together versus it comes out and then later on you get another piece. I just think it should be same day.
Yeah, otherwise, it's going to be ambiguous.
Yeah, we were trying to do multiple touches, right? So people have multiple pieces of mail, but we can think a little bit more about how to make that.
I just think like say on any other election, you get the your ballot with the like all the ballot the voter guide with everything in it, so you can sit down with your ballot, read through all of that. I mean that's why also on the day you get your ballot, you usually get a bunch of politicians mailers as well.
True, people have their timing down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, bud?
Maybe a thought too, along with what he's saying there, that DWR, that I don't know how you'd phrase this, but if this doesn't pass and the state comes in, they're looking to make an example out of somebody. They want an example, and we don't want to be the example.
I agree.
That could be the second mailer.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. First of all, I like the great study and the action that we're going to be asked to take today. But I was going to go back to the draft penalties and replacement water charge, just, at least for my direction or my opinion. The the penalties, it's basically, I look at it as something, a sign for pumpers who are willfully exceeding the what they're allocated, and the idea is that you're looking to discourage that type of behavior, just like any other law that's out there, exceeding the speed limit, things of that sort. Because when people exceed what they're supposed to pump, it actually violates, not only the law, but also if we're not providing some kind of levy for that type of behavior, it's telling people who are complying that they're dumb for complying. So I, I don't, the penalty thing is good. In fact, I'm not quite sure why it starts at 0 for the penalty at year 1. I'd like to see it higher than that for year 1. But what I would like to see is some kind of a maybe a couple of acre feet margin for people who, I want to reward people who are attempting to comply. So if they are at 28 inches, that's what the allocation is this year. And if they're at, say, 29, in the previous year they were at 45, well, it's obvious they're looking to comply. So I'd rather have a little wiggle room in there, maybe with a minor penalty or no penalty or a partial replacement water. But if they're looking where you can tell they're not complying or they are really not serious about it, I don't see any problem with the full-on penalty. And the more years that this happens, then especially in dry years like this, if next year's a dry year, the following year, it's just going to make it more and more difficult for growers in our basin. I mean, they're going to be, Matt Angel's going to be have to get about 8 or 9 different crews out there to lower wells. So it's a very serious situation, and I think it's something that we need to, let people know we're serious. So that would be my recommendation. Again, recognizing those who are attempting to comply and in good faith, and then those who are not, that's what we have the penalty, or why we have it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, just Stephanie, to kind of piggyback a little bit on Supervisor Frazier's comments about the glide path and having that map, that information. You have it spelled out on page 16 about, state intervention and lawsuits and worse allocations. And I'd just like to see that a little clearer. I read the notice, and the language is clear, but sometimes you just have to fit it at its most basic form. So I think the people receiving the notice would appreciate
See
that.
that right there, right?
That's all. Thank you.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, ordinarily I would totally agree with Supervisor Poitras on his approach to that. But I'd like to remind us also that we're in a new circumstance. This is brand new, never before attempted, new systems, never used AeroWatch before for regulatory circumstances, never had to report out, on your metering. You never had to make this work for your crop, and trees don't always obey your command to grow, and you've got to have a certain amount of water to do that. So there's a lot of variables here, a lot of circumstances, a lot of systems, and I think a little understanding in our flexibility the first 5 years is going to be imperative, or we're going to, it's not so black and white to me. I wish I could see it as black and white, but it's not so black and white. There's so many different circumstances out there, different crops, different entrepreneurs doing different things with, you've got dairies, you've got grapes, you've got almonds, you've got pistachios. They're all different, and they all are affected differently. And the ground is even different in some places than others. So you don't know how that's going to play out in the end. And in my opinion, the voice I'm hearing from the farmers and that I talk to is one of, we want to make this work. We want to work. We want it to work. We want to be able to survive. We want to be able to save the groundwater. They're more concerned about their ground than the state is. It's their ground. It's their home. It's where they live. Yeah, they want water under their feet, doggone it. Nobody wants to deplete what you have and walk away. This is their life, and this is our life. So the variables are just so many, and And I realize, we all realize we have to try to comply, have to get there. But how to do that, requires some patience in getting to that point. And I think having that flexibility the first 5 years is going to be really important to survival. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot of people go out of business. That's in my opinion. And I like this, I like the idea of having it lower, but averaging it over the 5 years. You get to the same point regardless. And when you come to the end of that 5 years, if you have a big bill to pay, it's going to be the same result no matter what. If you cheated the system, you tried to cheat it, you didn't try to improve, you're going to pay the price at the end anyway. And it's all going to balance out somehow.
Again, we're litigating something that's not even on the agenda, or I mean, it's in this, but we're talking about a rate that we aren't even putting out right now in terms of the replacement water charge.
Yes, and the fourth bullet is have me come back
Right.
with some ideas in a month.
That's why I'm putting that forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking to the future and trying to craft what we can of the entire program, because see, it's not just one element that they're going to be voting on. We can say that, but it's like Supervisor Frazier said, they want to see the whole picture. You're going to kick the tires. I want to look in the horse's mouth and see, hey, yeah, this horse isn't 50 years old or whatever. This is important to passing this.
Let them talk now. So.
Yeah, this is important to passing the 218.
Yep. Okay, we're going to open up to the public now. You want to get up here and give us your version. Everybody jump up at once. Nobody wants to talk, then we'll close the, what? Is there somebody online?
Go ahead, Leticia.
Which one?
First and last name, please.
First and last name? Can you hear us out there in the...
Leticia, can you hear us?
Okay, we're going to move on.
I don't think we can under AB 361.
Right.
Right. We've got to solve the technical issue before the board can take
She's online.
any action.
I
There's,
don't think it's
there's not a technical issue.
There's no technical issue. It's on
Okay.
their end.
just one moment. There might be.
You can hear us, Leticia. It'd be really nice if you could come to some of our meetings in person.
Or send in the comment.
Hello, Michelle Stevens. I'm on Bonneville in District 1. I just had a quick question going through the penalties, because in thinking back through previous presentations, I thought that the penalties were actually going to be counted to fund some of the projects. No, so it's possible I misunderstood. So the idea would be to obviously not have farmers pay penalties. But I was just concerned, I was just curious about the stability of the recharge projects and some of the well mitigation and things like that. if those penalty dollars were factored into any of that. That was my question.
We'll wait till everybody gets done. Well, we're waiting on that. Go ahead. Well, no, we got another person. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Bill Dietrich. Appreciate the difficulty that you have in front of you today and in this issue. I wanted to compliment Stephanie and her staff of 5 for the work that they've done on this. It's incredibly difficult. And looking at the 300 some pages in the rate study, you get an idea of what a huge effort it was. But I would like to say that I do appreciate the pooling concept that Supervisor Rogers brought up, because it gives us an opportunity to possibly finish off some trees that are older and then take them out and then pay back that overdraft of those first 2 or 3 years. So that concept has got some life, and I think we had talked about that way back on the advisory committee back in 2018. So I think that it definitely has legs. As far as the penalty goes, and the fact that the growers want to have in their mind the bigger picture when they vote on this election, I think is important. So if Stephanie could provide a graphic that shows an example, say it's something really simple, 75, 150 acres of almonds, so we know there's going to be overdraft, we know there's going to be penalty, we know there's going to be replacement waters to finish farming for the 2022 crop year. So how and when do those charges specifically show up on our property tax statement? Because I, for one, am not real clear, when those statements come out, when that money, when those bills are going to be due. I know that we pay December 10th and we pay April 10th. And it would be good for me to know when I vote when I'm going to be paying those bills. And logistically, there's a tremendous problem with pooling that 5 years, because that's a huge bill in the end if you don't pay back that water.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great concept. How the staff at the county would implement that is a question. So anyhow, those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Leticia, go ahead.
Can you hear us, Letitia? You can start now. Oh, I see. What is your last name, Letitia? Right. Come on up. Yeah.
I wasn't going to get up today on board and talk. I was going to wait till the penalty phase, but I might as well say it since we're on delay. So what you're going to vote on, and I accept that you're going to vote positive, is, and please help me, it's $21 million for the Madera Subbasin, $9 million or $10 million for Chowchilla, and I didn't calculate the third one, but you're going to vote on something that's about $35 million in revenue. Fine, accept it. But that is about half the size of the Madera County budget that you have, maybe not quite half, but something like that. So the farmers are going to accept a very big fee for very important projects. I acknowledge all of this, but a very big number. Okay, and just so put that in your head as you do it. Coming up, we're going to vote on recharge and penalties, and those numbers, based upon my own evaluation, will be significantly greater than the 35 million. Stephanie was kind enough to give us the Open ET data, the website. So it is very hard to look at the average usage across the Madera sub-basin last year, because in Open ET, you can only sort of create a parcel of 2,400 acres as the maximum. And so I went through and just sort of arbitrarily created 5 2,400 acre parcels. So what is that? 12,000 acres of the 85,000 in the Madera sub-basin. I know that's a random sample, but I came up with average water usage in 2021 of 44 inches using Open ET relative to the 28, which is again, the Madera sub-basin number. Chachela is different, I get it. And you could say, well, Open ET overestimates because it's got rainfall in there as opposed to applied water. I beg to differ. I also compared Open ET to Irawatch, and I'm going to run out of time. I'll save this one for a future. But Open ET on the same property, and I'm looking at quite a sample, versus Irawatch, actually reports exactly the same number, 44 inches. On my property, it's a little bit different. Why I bring that up is because when I take out the applied water using the El Pico Ranch as the number, 5.73 inches in 2021, I do have these numbers obviously memorized. It says to me, Irawatch actually overestimates relative to Open ET, and I would encourage everyone to go look at that. You can see it. But when the farmers get that penalty, 44 inches, and let's say they were doing a damn good job, although it's hitting us fast, maybe we get it down to 35 inches. 7 inches of extra revenue at $600 next year is more than the $246 penalty in itself. So you're really talking about $70 million or $80 million. We're actually going to be talking about revenue equal to the size of Madera County. And I just want to put that in your head. That's a lot to put on your farmers this year. I wasn't going to go into penalties, but we had some time, so I did. Thank you very much. I'll leave my comments at that. I'll talk more in the future.
Thank you, Mark. You guys got it working? Can you put it on a phone and put it by a microphone?
Chair, members of the board, AB 361, with the use of more flexible Brown Act remote participation, one of the rules is that if there is a tech issue, that the board is not authorized to take any action. Now, when I read the legislation, the question is action. You can have the discussion, but if there are any tech issues that don't allow members of the public to participate in the process, then there's no, you're supposed to take a break until that tech issue is resolved or forego any action. Here, this is the last item on the agenda, and staff is looking for a motion not to set the rates. Of course, that comes with the Prop 218, and that's later on, but to formalize the direction.
Right.
And so even if we have a workaround that allows somebody to phone in the public comment. I think that the board should hear that public comment. However, my concern is whether there's still anyone online that we're unable to know whether they're not able to participate, which is a tech issue. It's that I don't know if that's been resolved or not.
They could still raise their hand in the system. So problem.
Okay.
So if it's their microphone,
What it sounds like, their microphone's not working.
That
Been a lot of
sounds,
Zoom meetings, and that's what most of them are.
She's asking to see if there's anybody else that would like to do public comment. We do have Alicia on the phone.
great.
So just one moment.
Yeah, we'll
Sorry,
just go ahead and
it's a tech
take 5
issue.
minutes here and
I
then
can't tell who's online.
come back.
Alicia,
Oh, you want to talk? Go ahead. Come on up.
We're going to try to, just one moment. We're going to.
So I'm Sohan Samran, a farmer. This is the very region that we're talking about. I have a question or comment. Will there be time allowed to correct the penalty? Like if you can like take some of your land out of production the following year if you were off balance the first? Or is it December 31st, give us your pay us penalty and there will be no time?
That's exactly what I was asking for in my earlier. Was an ability to average it out over the 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yeah.
Allow someone to like convert flood irrigation to drip.
Right.
Maybe they can become more
Just,
efficient that
just
way.
reach a balance. Yeah.
Yes.
And
So there will be some.
well,
that will
no,
be taken into
it's not voted
consideration.
on
we
yet,
can't
so.
say
Yeah, I know,
there
that
is,
will be
but
taken into
yeah.
consideration.
Yeah,
We're just looking
that's
at
what
that.
I want.
Okay, that was my.
You bet.
Okay, thanks.
Would you mind signing in there too, buddy? No, it's something behind you.
on the clipboard.
Thanks for your comment, Sohan. I appreciate it.
So we could, you guys, Mike or Stephanie, you want to answer those questions that we've had up there?
Sure, I would be glad to.
Okay.
So we are not using the penalties to fund projects.
Right.
The rate that we projected that we were showing today is what is funding projects. Penalties could, for example, be added to what we were using for land repurposing to get more acres out of production sooner. So that's kind of one thought there. As we always say, we have kind of two options. If you don't like using IRWatch, you are welcome to meter. You just need to make sure the meters are installed correctly. We have an RFQ that we just closed where we'll have someone who can inspect your meters, and you need to take monthly meter reads. So there is an alternative to that. And then in terms of penalties, I will come back to you in a month and we'll look at some options for what that might look like. I think the key for today is that this is rates to pay for projects. They do not include a penalty, and these actions need to be taken and evaluated separately. Though we all agree that for someone who is a grower, things need to be looked at it at the same time for a full financial picture. And that's why we've tried to have these discussions concurrently.
Right. Very good. I might just say a word about Stephanie too, because across the board, everywhere I've gone, every farmer I've talked to, it's the pre-discussion is Stephanie does a great job at every time.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Okay,
And-
we're going to break for 5 minutes while IT and our staff works on these things. We got two people now.
Yeah, because I've got a text that someone else is.
So we're gonna take
unable
5
to as
minutes.
well.
Okay, thank you everybody for getting this done, and thank you out there in the Zoom world. Letisa, I think you're going to be first, put on my list, or is it Christina?
Let's go with Christine while Leticia logs
Okay,
back into
Christina.
WebEx.
This is still public can speak on this item, 8A. Are you available, Christina?
Let's go with Jack Rice, please. Jack, can you hear us?
Mr. Jack Rice.
We can hear you.
Turn it up a bit. That's good.
Perfect. So Jack Rice with the Madera Ag Water Association. Appreciate the chance to comment, and I thank the board for grappling with this issue. It's challenging. It's obvious you've heard from the community, and as has your staff. They've done a good job working through what's a very challenging issue. The main point is it's important to move forward and provide clarity to the farmers about what fees are going to be, when they're going to happen, and how much. I would note that the rate study that was posted last week, I believe, is long and detailed. There's a lot of good information in there. Look forward to reviewing that. And Ms. Agneson has described a rigorous outreach process over the next couple months. I think that'll be important as people look over that rate study to ask questions. So thank you for that. A couple of comments regarding the notice specifically. I believe Supervisor Rogers mentioned that it was important that the notice clearly explain that the fees are only used for the projects in GSP implementation, and I second that point. Also, I think it was Supervisor Frazier that may have mentioned that as a practical matter, having some good information about how the GSP is designed, where the fees go, if there is a flyer that can be included with the notice, even if it's the same one that you send out in a couple weeks after that, there's a lot of value there so that people can see where these fees will go. But one last comment about the notice is one farmer had suggested it would be helpful, and this may have been mentioned as well, that people know how much they're actually going to pay. There's still some confusion about the term enrolled acres and whether that means in the farm unit, if it's enrolled in the SALT program, if it's what's irrigated. So some way of showing it at all possible exactly what each parcel will end up paying would be ideal, or at least some kind of example farm and explaining farm units versus irrigated acres, that kind of thing. The terminology gets confusing. So those are mostly on the notice. I thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me this time around?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is Leticia with Leadership Council.
The first and last name?
Leticia Casillas Luquin.
Get it?
Yeah, and then I agree. I don't know who said it, but yeah, I should probably just start going down there instead. Okay, so after the presentation, just wanted to share some concerns. So first, in Madera County, 127 wells are projected to go dry. Considering such a high number, at minimum, there should be a standard cap to stop people from over pumping. Because to quote Poitras, sorry, I apologize for messing the last name up. In previous meetings, these efforts are to protect water, and water cannot be protected if people over pump, as long as they can pay for it. So second, a volumetric model is needed. It's unfair for small farmers to pay the same amount as big farmers or farmers who have water intensive crops. People should pay for what they pump. Third, the penalty that is being proposed seems too low. If the GSA or the Board of Supervisors really wants to disincentivize going over allocations, farmers should be charged more than 100 per acre foot, especially considering, again, those 127 wells going dry. And especially also just considering that these penalties wouldn't be applicable until next year. Fourth, the replacement of wells is being underestimated. Self-help has seen well replacements from 40K to 50K, so 30K is not enough. And this is due to several factors such as labor shortage and supply shortage. So before making a decision, please consider these points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Christina?
No, Christina doesn't want to speak. It was for Jack Rice. She was just.
Okay. Okay, any others? Okay, we're going to bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of the proposed study to place for a 218 vote.
With much trepidation, I second the motion.
And when is the replacement water and penalty coming back? One.
We can bring it back in a month.
Perfect. Be before the protest, so that'd be great. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Supervisor Portress?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes. Well, we also I'll ask after. Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
Will you circulate what the final looks like with the graphs and
Yes, the
as well as
brochure
the
and the
brochure?
notice I will
Perfect.
circulate.
Okay.
Again, that brochure
Yeah,
can go out
I
multiple
think
times.
it's really important that we continue a parallel path because this is part of the car. You're not going to buy the car unless you can kick the tires and make sure the whole car is good. So it's important that we have the parallel path. And I just want to stress too, from my standpoint, the things that I have suggested, I really feel strongly about. I feel very strongly about this flexibility in the program because of survival. I know that this will mean that some farmers many of them will be able to survive. Otherwise, I don't see a good future.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other business we need? And we're going to adjourn. We already did all our closed sessions, so we're going to adjourn the meeting now. Our next meeting is April the 19th. So thank you, everybody. Thank you guys all for coming, and we'll go from there.